Jake Picking has arrived in Hollywood in more ways than one. He stars on the new Ryan Murphy Netflix series as a young Rock Hudson in sort of a revisionist look at the actor's career. I'm Tony Ruiz of Gold Derby. And Jake, Ryan Murphy shows certainly come with a certain degree of secrecy, usually until they're released. So when you go into audition for this, what did you know about the show, and what did you know about what you were auditioning for?
Well, I was cognizant of who Rock was previously. Just while I was at NYU, I'd watched the film Pillow Talk, and then the auditioning process was kind of just reading an unknown script, and then I sat down and kind of cut down with brass tacks with Ryan a little bit, better, and really just wanted to capture the essence of who Rock was on his rise to stardom. But yeah, it was extremely daunting to play someone who's such an icon, and such a hero. Yeah.
So where do you start with the research? Because I always would think that playing a real person, the more research you do, the better. So where do you even begin? Do you just look at his films? Do you read biographies? Where do you go?
Yes, I started with the films. Pillow Talk, Magnificent Obsession, All That Heaven Allows, and watched them on silent, understood some body language, and then listened to a lot of his interviews just while riding in the car, and then reading as well, trying to delve into the personal relationships with his family, and that was actually what surprised me the most. So yeah, just trying to understand the history of why he was the way he was.
Does that then give you, because the show, as I think Ryan calls it faction, because it does play with the actual history of everybody who's a real person in the show, does that then give you some leeway in terms of your interpretation? Are you trying to be true to just Rock Hudson, or are you trying to maybe take him into kind of like a what might have been sort of version of Rock Hudson?
I think when we first sat down, we really just wanted to capture the essence of who Rock was on. This is his rise to stardom, and I think just the eradication of all his quote unquote effeminacy. That was the tragedy. His if your hips are swayed, straighten them. Don't cross your legs. Fix your teeth. Lower your voice. That kind of thing. And I read somewhere that it's not really a secret unless it's painful to hold on to. And I feel like that was the tragedy that Rock was holding on to. And I just wish he was alive today to see how far we've come socially. But yeah, I just think that, America's relationship went from almost a puppy love, or at first, or a shallowness, to actually really respecting who he was and having genuine affection for Rock. I think he was a hero in my eyes because he progressed through those those hardships. When he first came to LA, he was driving a budget packing truck full of frozen peas and carrots, and so he definitely went through the work. He put in the work.
So let's talk about really the two main relationships that Rock has in this show is between there's the romantic relationship between him and Archie, but first what I want to talk about is the relationship between Rock and Henry Wilson, played by Jim Parsons. That relationship is so mesmerizing, and yet at the same time so toxic. What was it like working with Jim, and were you guys able to leave some of the harsher scenes? Were you able to leave those behind at the end of the day?
Yes, I think so. I felt safe working with Jim. Just he's so different than obviously than his character, you know. But it is daunting showing up on a set like that, and you know, feeling that the daunting, almost that there's a presence of Rock there. But I guess you remind yourself you have to be present, and thank God I had someone like Jim, to hopefully make the audience feel like a fly on the wall. But yeah, I think that really just touches on the abuse of power. And, unfortunately, I think that's always going to be relevant, not even within the entertainment industry. But I don't know. I think that, we really just wanted to remain truthful to, what Rock was initially going through, which is unknown. This is his climb to stardom. So and it is it's faction is what Ryan coined. So overall, I mean, I still think it is a hopeful, triumphant show, and the battle for representation for women and people of color and members of the LGBT community is still being waged today. So yeah.
And then, of course, you have these really kind of really magnificent scenes with Jeremy Pope. That relationship is almost like something that nobody could imagine in the 1940s, and yet is portrayed so honestly. How did you and Jeremy work together?
He really well. I mean, I had the chance to meet him one time before the first scene, but on even the first day, it was a very intimate scene. There was a coordinator. We just knew that we were both 1,000% in. Like he knew that I wanted to, as best I could, pay homage to Rock. And he's so talented that he made it really easy. And I think the initial response to reading a script is like it has a very salacious nature to it, but I think our relationship blossoms into love, and what stems from that first, I think, is a genuine friendship. So I think we established that earlier in the episodes. They both have this empathy for each other and a deeper understanding that they're facing social ostracization. Both in their own ways. So I think it's hopeful. It's very hopeful and something to root for. I think you garner an empathy for. Well, maybe I'm biased, but for Jeremy's character, like she was so good. Like, yeah.
I have to imagine that the entire atmosphere on set in this kind of period, did it feel kind of like an immersion kind of experience? And was that helpful? How did that help you in terms of the performance?
Yeah, totally. It was like existentially just time warpy, like even the colors, everything from that era was so romantic, but I think that helps, too, for an actor. And as Jim, we both had to wear prosthetics on our face. Those kind of small things where we're just, trying to do anything we can to get closer to, the truth, I think helps. And that, anything on a Ryan Murphy set is just, it's sensational, really. So.
Well, this was your first working relationship with Ryan Murphy. So, and he's the type of producer that has people back repeatedly. In your first encounters with him on this project, what's been the relationship with between you and Ryan? Why do you think actors keep returning to him?
I think Ryan is successful because he's always willing to take a risk, and he's very specific. He knows what he wants, and he has a good sense of humor too. Most people don't know he's like really dry, but there's the dichotomy there. It's like because he's on the other side of the spectrum of like he's just so serious and fervent about that. So when we first sat down, he's like, "Tell me everything you know about Rock Hudson," and I just, that was exciting to me to see someone who I was someone I loved the golden age. And I love those older, I was cognizant of who Rock was, but, Paul Newman, Marlon Brando, Montgomery Clift, like those guys, James Dean, they're a little later, but, I often find myself posing the same question, what would they do, in this time? So it was cool to connect with someone on that same wavelength, to see that passion was like refreshing,
The cast of this show is so not just diverse in terms of race and anything else, but it's also a very diversely experienced cast. You have younger actors like yourself, and then you have these legends like Patti LuPone and Holland Taylor and Dylan McDermott and Rob Reiner. And so, did you find yourself, even on days that you weren't working, did you find yourself like trying to pick up tips and things like that from them?
Definitely. I mean, it goes back to that daunting thing, like just walking into the makeup trailer and Patty's there, and even Joe Mantello, he was incredible, so integral of the role, and just really talented. It's ineffable. I can't really doesn't seem like it's real, so, maybe that helped in terms of like being able to disappear, but yeah. I don't know if I answered the question.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I can't say that my reaction would be any different if the roles were reversed.
One thing I can say is I did have to yell at Jim Parsons the very first day. Like I showed up, met him, and then I had to yell at him for like a full hour, which was just kind of unsettling. But I don't know. It ended up working out, I guess.
Well, and this project is so high profile. Has this opened new doors in terms of opportunities for you?
Yeah, I mean, I can only hope so. It comes out on Friday. So we'll see.
And are there, when you're looking at projects, are there types of projects that you're drawn to?
I think I just want to do great work with great people, with great directors. Inspiring stories. I think as a kid, you want to laugh and cry in the same movie, to feel inspired. And I think this show, just the sentiment that it stands for, I think it's it's powerful. I mean, there's so many qualities that make up a human being. To initially judge anyone based on their own chemical makeup is extremely toxic. So. I think this show is something to root for. I keep saying that, but it feels true. It feels like I'm plugging it, but it's like I think in times of quarantine, like this is, I think would be relevant.
There's been rumors. I was speaking with Dylan McDermott, and I asked him the same question. There's been rumors of this becoming an anthology of sorts, and whether that's true or not. If it were. You seem very steeped in, kind of, old Hollywood and stuff like that. Are there other stories within Hollywood that you'd like to explore?
Wow, that's a good question. I mean, the 70s would be really cool. 70s would be amazing. Just that in general. I always loved, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. I'm just kind of thinking out loud at this point, but yeah, James Dean. I love James Franco's James Dean, the first. Anything really from the 70s, anything counterculture, after 50s and 60s, going late 60s would be cool, early 70s.
Well, even if it's not even a time period, is there? You mentioned actors like Montgomery Clift and James Dean and things like that. Would you ever tackle another Hollywood leading man from that
era? Yeah, that would be an honor. That would be an honor. Paul Newman, Robert Redford would be really cool. Man, yeah, I would be, blessed to take on anyone really from that era. Yeah.
Well, Jake Picking, congratulations! It's a great series that I think will certainly have people talking. Everybody go to goldderby.com, make your predictions for the Emmys, and stay tuned for more interviews throughout the season. Jake, congratulations! Thank you so much.
Thanks for your time, man. Thank you.